Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Shepherd's Corner. I am Deacon Derek Walcott, and we're happy to have you. And we're glad that you're watching us on the internet, on television, and streaming live wherever you are. This evening, we're going to be dealing with the topic about justice, restorative justice. Now, the shepherd is in Rome, so I'm deputizing for him on this topic that he wrote on the 17th of June, Sunday the 17th of June. And with me, I have two young people, both lawyers. We have Leela Ramdeen. As you would know, she is a lawyer, but she is also the Episcopal delegate for social justice. And we have somebody that everybody knows, Ian Benjamin, right? He is also a lawyer, and he does lots of other things. He's also a director on the Foundation for Human Development. And you see him sometimes on television talking about, is it United Way? Yes, so he is doing other social justice work. And so we welcome them on Shepherd's Corner, and we're going to be dealing about the truth about justice. What is justice all about? And looking at the article, you know, we got a question coming to us, and it says, restorative justice, and why does the church support restorative justice? So, Leela Ramdeen, yes. Let me kick it off with you. Archbishop says justice, restorative justice, is a system of justice that brings together the offender, the victim, and the community to establish truth, make amends, and integrate the offender into community. Why is this so important?
Well, you see, we live in a society and in a world which, as Pope Francis said, we have a throwaway culture these days. And so many countries like Trinidad and Tobago seem to prefer retribution rather than restoration, and punishment rather than rehabilitation. We as Catholics believe that the foundation, the moral foundation of any society is human dignity. It's how we treat human beings. We don't throw them away and lock the door and throw away the key. So if we believe in the inherent, inalienable dignity of each human person, then whatever we're not saying offenders should walk free. They have to be accountable. But restorative justice is underpinned by the key watchwords at the heart of Christian living. So the key watchwords for restorative justice are things like repentance, reparation, restoration, reconciliation, rehabilitation, empowerment, and reintegration. Because we know in Trinidad and Tobago about 90% of the people who go into prison would come back out into society. So we have to help reintegrate them, not just warehouse them. So social justice, it's important to recognize what our church says, our Catechism 1928 says about social justice. Society ensures social justice when it provides conditions that allow associations and individuals to obtain what is their due. Their due is not to be thrown away. According to their nature and their vocation, social justice is linked to the common good and the exercise of authority. So basically what that means is the common good is that we create conditions so everyone can realize his or her potential, so that you don't, even the worst offender has potential, has that spirit imbued in them from God that we can't take away. It's inalienable. So do you want to come in?
No, well,
and share.
I mean, I think the short way that I would put it, Leela and Derek, is, and thank you for having me, by the way, is we've got to see God reflected in everybody else, irrespective of who they are, irrespective of their station, irrespective of their status, and sometimes, and I think challengingly so, irrespective of what they have done, exactly. Because the deed is not necessarily the same as the individual. Yeah. That's hard. Yeah. The gospel is not an easy road to walk, but I think that's fundamentally what it's about. And therefore, what you think about justice in a broader way than the society normally does, in a way that reflects the gospel. That's, I mean,
you know, the challenge is the victim. Now, the victim and the families of the victim then say, but wait a minute, aren't you thinking about me? You know, and lots of times the society and what we hear from society is put them away, get rid of them, that kind of thing, take them away, you know. So in terms of our Christian, our Catholic approach to restorative justice? You know, we're talking about making amends. How does one make amends when you're locked up?
Yes, well, that's it. You know, we need to look at sentencing and sentencing policies. We have quite a lot of fellas who have been in prison because they couldn't pay maintenance. Sure. So they get taken to court because they haven't paid maintenance. Then we lock them up, and then they lose their job. So even when they come out, if they come out with our system where people are there for years, Archbishop Harris, as you know, had this petition.
Correct.
So we're defeating the whole purpose. So we need to look at alternatives in our sentencing. So the entire criminal justice system and administration of justice we need to look at that if we want to get the victim involved. The difference with restorative justice is that unlike retribution, where you would have read in the paper yesterday, 15 years this lady waited for her case, where she had the marijuana in the car and a gun in, and she got 24 years for that yesterday in the court. But 15 years it took. People are on remand. We have 2,500 people on remand, 750 of them waiting for their murder cases to start. So we're warehousing them in appalling conditions. And what's happening to the victims? So we're talking about victims. The victims will wait for up to 17 years or more and no justice. With restorative justice, there is a way in which there are different formats. So you have conferencing, you have victim offender mediation. No matter how hard, I'll give you an example. His Grace was the keynote speaker at our recent symposium. We partnered with UWI, the Faculty of Law, on restorative justice. And there were two lifers who were Andrew Douglas and Natasha De Leon. Both lifers, both killed people. And both have reformed themselves. They're still in prison, but the prison officers bring them out. And she said, Natasha, that she has turned her life around in there. They're both doing amazing work, talking to youngsters in schools, telling them, stay away from crime. And she said she lived to see an opportunity she had to talk to members of the family and to embrace them and to say she's sorry. Now, as the Pope said, and the archbishops of our region and the bishops have produced, human life is gift from God against capital punishment. As the Pope says, he appealed to the consciences of those who govern to reach an international consensus to abolish the death penalty. He said, the commandment, you shall not kill, has absolute value, applies both to the innocent and to the guilty. So this woman, young woman, who has been there 25 years, Andrew has been there 28 years, they're still inside. He's a radio host. He does a lot of motivational speaking. God don't make rubbish. We may stray from the path, but restorative justice brings us back. I'll just give one more story and we move on. When I lived in England, I did a lot of work. I was chair of, Cardinal Hume was the chair, I was his vice chair for the Caribbean community. And a group of young black fellas of Caribbean origin, well, they're born in England, they're of Caribbean. They got drunk, went partying, and they rip up this nice old lady's garden. She had she used to win every year for her lovely roses. And in negotiating with the court I said, you know, myself and other Catholics, we worked to get the court to agree that their punishment would be to replant. They would have to find the money, replant her roses, not little gray. They had to buy roses and replant it, and help, you know, nurture until she got back a garden. Do you know, some amazing friendships grew out of that, because for weeks they had to do this.
Sure.
Otherwise, they might have got a long time in the youth correctional facility. And so there are lots of examples. At our conference, Hazel Thompson-Ahi, who is a real expert in restorative justice, gave lots of examples of how, instead of putting people away, you can restore, you can heal. The whole idea is healing the community. When there's a crime, there's a break in society. Relationships are broken. How do we heal? And there are wonderful ways in which we can heal. Whatever the crime is, we can heal. So those people are still locked up, but they have sought forgiveness, and they're still doing they're doing God's work now inside.
Well, let me go to the Archbishop's article, which spoke and said there are currently 2,500 people on remand awaiting trial. Many of these for periods longer than the maximum sentence, right? Have they been found guilty of the crime for which they were held? Ian, how do we address this system? How do we address this problem?
Well, the first thing we have to do is actually recognize that it's a problem. So part of the challenge is not thinking about it as somebody else's problem, or thinking about them in that throwaway fashion, saying that, well, they've done something wrong. If they don't get a trial on time, well, it's too bad. Well, that's not justice. That's not fair. That's not moral. I think we have to accept that we have a responsibility, all of us who live in the community, to make our community better. And if our justice system isn't functioning in the way that it should do, then we have every right to call upon the powers that be to improve it. And that's our responsibility, first of all, because nobody is to know which one of our relatives, somebody who is very close to us, is going to come into contact with in that system, either as a perpetrator or as a victim. So there's a kind of communal responsibility. We owe it to ourselves and to those people who are perhaps less powerful, voiceless within the community, to speak up on their behalf.
How do we then lobby the government for a better justice system? How can the ordinary person looking on right now on Shepherd's Corner say, well, okay, I would like to influence the government, the powers that be, so that we would have a more just system?
Well, go ahead.
At the conference, Justice Lucky was there, Gillian Lucky, and she brought a registrar and others with her. And I was so excited because she talked about a fast track process that they're going to institute from August. Yes. I was so pleased because unless we have a fast track process, the thousands of matters every day that magistrates have to just adjourn will never be dealt with. Over 25 years ago, the Law Association asked the government to give money to appoint lay magistrates, or where you'd have retired principals, retired judges, even because as a judge when you leave for about 10 years or so you can't practice. There has to be, if we don't have enough people to fast track, we have to bring in people. But that hasn't happened, so I'm pleased to hear that there is. Did you know about the fast track?
Yes, I'm aware of the initiative.
You want to talk about it?
And that, as far as I'm aware, is principally in the High Court system.
Yes.
But I agree. Something that we haven't been open to, and it's very common in England, where ordinary